Goodness gracious, Anthony, it's August, but I'm on the road. I'm surprised you're not too. It's been so busy.
Colonoscopy. I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Everybody, welcome to No Vacancy Live. I'm coming at you from the world famous Peabody Hotel. That's Anthony Melchiori. I'm Glenn Hausman. Anthony, it's exciting. It's starting to get busier here in the lobby because I think soon enough we're going to see the Duck March is going to be happening. So I don't know if we're going to be on air when that happens, but very exciting to see these ducks walk and then go here in this amazing fountain right over there, you know?
Well, I hope to see that, but I wanted to know how much you laughed when I said colonoscopy.
Dude, I left the entire opening credits.
Men's health or person health alert. Get a colonoscopy.
Yep.
All right, let's move on.
Yes. All right, let's move on. So speaking of examinations, we're going to be examining one of our friends' companies today. Hopefully, we won't be probing as deeply and painfully for you. All right, of course, we haven't had on the show in a while. Let's bring back in our friend. They've been the #1 guest ever on our show. And of course, I'm talking about Chris Green, president of Remington Hospitality. How are you, sir?
Hey, guys. It's good to be back.
I miss you, buddy.
Getting used to Remington Hospitality instead of Remington Hotels, but we miss you, dude, and it's great to see you. And you guys changed the name of the company because you're getting to all these different markets now, and it's pretty exciting out there. But it's great to see you, and you're looking really good.
It's good to be seen. It's good to see you too, Anthony, my friend. It's been a while.
I see you've been hanging out with Sloan a little bit. You're getting more like that light color, kind of like casual vibe.
Yeah, we have to. We're not allowed to wear white blazers because that's only for Sloan. But I got the baby blue going. So.
So what's the deal with the white blazer? I've noticed that.
He looks good in it. That's it. He likes it. He looks good in it. So
he looks great.
To be fair, he'd look good in anything. Yeah, he'd look good in it.
Yeah,
listen. It's the curse of us tall, handsome fellas. We look good in
it. Yeah,
might be the best you've ever been.
Hey, you know what, though? Here's the thing. I remember a long time ago at one of the Intercontinental Hotels conferences in Vegas, there was this management company. I don't remember where they were from, but they all wore these bright blue blazers, not like navy, like bright blue. But you could spot them anywhere. So when they said, hey, meet us over here, we're in the bright blue blazers, it was just and so I think, you can find Sloan in any crowd for sure. Not that just because he's tall, but that white blazer.
For those people that don't know Chris or Sloan, I want you kind of tell them who they are, somebody.
All right. So we're talking to Chris Green, president of Remington Hospitality, one of the top 5 management companies in existence out there. And of course, Sloan is the CEO of the company, Sloan. Chris, how's it going for you? What are we, about a year and a half in now since you've been working with these guys? Almost coming on 2, maybe? Jeez.
No, it was April of 22. So
okay, a year and a half.
It's been about 18 months. Yeah, it's going good.
Right.
It's going good. The marketplace. I said this at first, but the marketplace has responded really well to the combination of the two organizations, and I think when we moved to Remington Hospitality, that kind of signified the completeness of the coming together. So not only that, but that we're going into new verticals, new markets. And as you've seen from all the announcements that we regularly put out, there's a lot of growth going on. We just added a beautiful hotel in Scottsdale just about 7 days ago. The Senna House, the Curio out there in Scottsdale. So I'm excited to see it when I'm out at lodging in a few weeks. So very exciting times. And then, of course, we've got a lot of promotions going on, growing the organization, moving into other countries, which is exciting.
So, let me ask you a question. With all this excitement in such a big company, when top 5 management companies in the country, how is it going from a mid-sized management company to one of the biggest? How is that for you? So let's take the top 1, 2, or 3 things that you had to kind of level up for, because you're like, wow, that's okay. That's a little bit out of my expertise, but you've learned a lot. And what are the 3, 1, 2, 3 things that maybe you're like, oh, okay, I was perfectly, suited for this, and my experience is perfectly suited for this. And also, the second part of the question is the people that transitioned with you from the mid-sized company to the bigger company. How has that been for them? And have most people flourished? And have they been ready for it?
Okay.
Chris, anecdotally, it looks like a lot of those people have gotten promotions. You know,
They have, and I think that's a lot that we can talk about. But the most, let me start with the things that I feel like I was ready for, Anthony.
Yep.
So we're still managing a hospitality business, right? So that's the core of what I've done for 30 years. Those fundamentals don't change on delivery, guest expectations, driving associate culture, the alignment that Sloan and I had on culture. So if you think about why we came together, right, it was for culture because we had an alignment there. That's worked out great, right? So that was something I was ready for, having a similar culture and a thriving culture. The second one was just the hospitality side of the business, right? That's in my DNA. That's all I know how to do. So we're still operating hotels, whether it's 30 hotels like at Chesapeake or 135 hotels like at Remington. It's the same business. So those are good, right? The leadership component, everything else. The next part that I would say was easy was encouraging the growth of the company, because by adding the two together, I've always been kind of out front. And even when I was a smaller organization, thinking about how to use the tools we had to grow the business. So those things felt good. Now, the other side of the story, which has been really daunting, frankly. I remember when I was the GM of a 183-room Hilton, and we did a great job, and you could see all four walls of the building from the lobby, and it was a compact place, and we did really great. And then I got promoted to a 598-room resort with 4 towers, 5 restaurants, and the scale of the thing is what really caught me off guard, right? The sheer volume of the moving pieces. And frankly, you wouldn't think going from 30 to 130 is that big a deal. It's a lot, because you go from 2,500 associates to nearly 10,000 associates. You go from 12 to 15 states to 30 states. And then you've got people that are C-suite leaders that are highly capable running their own businesses within the business. When you're talking about $1 billion to $1.5 billion in revenue, that's a big organization. Mm-hmm. So the scale caught me off guard. Also, making sure communication caught me off guard. When you're communicating in an organization this scale, making sure, you've always heard me say, it doesn't matter if I'm thriving or if I understand the company's culture. The housekeeper in Alaska and Anchorage needs to understand the culture. And how do we make sure through all these verticals that occurs? So that's been a big challenge for me. And then, frankly, the moving parts of being in the top 5, the amount of sheer marketing and the amount of development opportunities we have, that frankly, when you add 15 more states and a whole bunch more owners, then all of a sudden you got a lot more travel on your plate. So as you can see, I'm traveling today.
Yeah. How often are you traveling?
I think most of our key execs are on the road, 2 to 4 days a week.
Yeah. And another question I have for you, Chris, is, I've been saying this a lot lately, that I don't really like, my team or the people I hang out with can't be good. They have to be extraordinary. I'd imagine at this scale, you have to depend on your leaders more than you've ever depended on. So how important is it to pick the right leader that is extraordinary? And then for some reason, if they're having challenges, to communicate that. And if it's not right, put them in a different position, or maybe the company's not right for them. How, has that really kind of bubbled up to you? Like, that you see that when you do change leaders or you promote leaders, how important it is for them to kind of hit the ground running?
It's incredibly important. It may be the most important thing we do, is hiring the right person and then giving them the tools and the support to succeed. Because in an organization this size, one of the things that used to be so great being a mid-size was being very nimble. And we try, if you guys know anything at all about Sloan, he is out there making stuff happen. And so to be nimble at our scale is a challenge. And so you've got to be very careful, because let's say you hire a new SVP in operations. Let's say that's the position you fill. Take some time to ramp up. They got to learn our systems. They got to learn their region. So all of a sudden, you're 90 days, 120 days into the process Well, the hotels never stop checking people in and out, never, right? So we've got to find ways to hire the ones that understand true third-party management, which has been very interesting, right? So that was one of the skills we brought to Remington Hospitality was that true hardcore one-to-one third-party management, less institutional. So that's a whole training piece. And that really makes, that makes a big difference. But so to your point, Anthony, the other thing I'll say on the other side, and we're laughing about the couple in the background,
Yeah,
I think.
That might be the
Sure.
best photo. That must be the best photo bomb I've ever seen.
Yeah, let's put this up here. Yeah, they were all.
For those people listening, Glenn was in the shot, and people came in and took a picture,
Right.
and he photobombed them. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Right,
No,
that's
no,
right. I'm sitting here in the lobby of the B lobby at Memphis. Yeah.
The other thing I'll tell you though is when you get to this scale, you certainly want to invest, and we've invested a lot in training. But the other thing you've got to do is you've got to have extremely firm riverbanks. You guys have heard me talk about my riverbanks philosophy, and basically what you said, Anthony. You either need to be in your canoe rowing the direction that we're rowing as an organization, or you're going to have to row somewhere else, right? We're going to help. I'm going to help you. Sloan's going to help you correct to the middle of the river. But otherwise, you got to go get out your boat and take it somewhere else. We just don't have the time to let that happen.
Right, and
Right.
I would
So, Chris,
imagine. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
I was going to say, Chris, one of the things that amazes me is you're having to bring all these other people along while you're trying to figure it out too, right? Because you're making this huge transition. So how are you able to figure out all of these systems and the changes and the new way of looking at things and learning? It's like almost like you're super prepared, but at the same time, you have no idea because it's a completely different universe, right?
Yeah, the most interesting thing about it for me is you would think that, Remington's been in hotels since 1964. We were in hotels since 57. We do the same thing. We manage hotels for a living. You would think that would all come together very simply, and that's just not the case. There's a million different ways to implement strategy or to use technology in different ways to extract information. My biggest challenge was I was so used to, after 25 years, seeing my reports exactly one way that I felt lost. The first few days I started looking at reports. I know financials as good as anybody, but I couldn't figure out the numbers because they were reported differently. It just looked very different. The way they thought about things was very different. So that was a huge challenge for me, Glenn, which is surprising,
Yeah, it seems to me like I could equate it to. Yeah, I could equate it to like when Microsoft comes out with a whole new operating system and everything feels foreign and strange, and you know how to do it, but you don't know how to interact with it, with the data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. And what he said, and the reporting, I can relate to that so great. When I go into a new company and I have different reporting, it's like going home, opening up the door, and being in somebody else's house. It's like it's a house, and you're familiar with it because it's a house, but it's like you're so uncomfortable. Like I literally cannot function until those reports are the way I need to see them, and I almost can't breathe. And you don't realize when you're in a rhythm of running a business how incredibly important. Because I start my day probably like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and the first 20 minutes I'm reading those reports, and then it's like it's like my air. It's like I understand what's going on. So Chris, when you said that, I was like, it's so important. So how did you mitigate that? What did you do to kind of get comfortable?
Well, the good news is at our scale, we have our own analytics department. So I went to our head of analytics. I think you guys have talked to Zach, and he customized some reports very quickly. Just basically there's about 15 data points that if I can look at those, I know how everything's going quickly, right? Instead of having to review hundreds of pages of financials, you give me these 15 things and I can tell you whether we're going the right way in the river or not. And so Zach was able to, through our proprietary platform, create a dashboard for me and a report that I look at every day. Tells me how things are going and makes me feel much more comfortable.
And how important it is right now, especially at your scale, to really figure out technology to take up for the positions that you can't fill. Are you figuring out, okay, technology could handle us? We're not taking jobs away. We just can't fill these jobs. So we need a solution.
I think we're going to be, you've been hearing this. I think we're going to return to maybe 90% of historical staffing. I don't think we're ever going back. We've improved so many things through the housekeeping efficiency, through communication via app, through QR codes and, removal of some services that really, after all these years, were kind of irrelevant. So I think we're only going to go back to 90%. And right now that's okay because we're at about 88 to 93% of 19's occupancy, right? So that I think we're going to be okay. If we push back to 19 occupancy, which I think that's 25 we're looking at, we're going to have to really be good at these technology systems. But that's the only way forward, right? Because here's the thing that's not changing. The expectations on the bottom line are not changing, right? So we're going to have to figure at Remington, we've seen over 30% growth in base wage rates since 19. So when you factor that in, plus the cost of energy, plus what's happening in insurance markets, the owners' pockets are getting decimated right now. And that makes it even more critical that we use technology to replace some of this high-cost labor and do some things more efficiently that we never did before.
So how are you thinking about going through choosing? How are you thinking about choosing the specific technologies? Because when it comes to technology, it might be great today, but could be immediately outdated, and it's a big investment.
Yeah, the biggest thing we look at, Glenn, is what is the length of the runway for it? How long is it going to last? Is it impacting? I mean, because you can find a technology, and if you go to any of the shows, you'll see people that are attacking. I would call them the minor lines on the P&L. I look at people who are attacking the major lines on the P&L where I can make a big impact. Energy. If you can do something for me with energy and move that needle, that's a cost that you can change, and it stays changed for a long period of time. That's a forever, right? So the ROI is calculable. But if it's just maybe just like credit card commissions, right? That's a tenth. You can go get that. There's things you can do, but we look for the big numbers and the ones that are going to have some legs to them. So I think that, and you can look at those, right? We know we're always going to have room attendants. We always are going to have clean the rooms, but how's that going to be handled? How are we efficiently doing that? We're always going to have front desk agents. I know people have talked about kiosks and robots and stuff. That's just not going to happen, and not in my lifetime, I don't think. So,
yeah, one of the things I loved about what you said, and that's one of the reasons I love talking to you, is you're so clear and so transparent on what the business is. And at the end of the day, you said the bottom line expectations aren't going to change. Right now, it's easy for guests to say, well, I'm not getting the same services and the prices are more, and I'm just not seeing the same value as maybe I saw. Well, that's why you have to really double down on the employee and make sure they understand the little things are the big things, because at the end of the day, the owner's expectation, they got to pay their taxes, they got to pay the loan, they got to pay their employees, and you have to have really creative minds. It's another thing that we don't talk about a lot in this industry. There's a lot of point and shoot in this industry because there's a lot of brands and there's a lot of kind of books and manuals and policies and procedures. What you and Sloan do is you think and you create. You cannot run a business like this if you're not thinking. And a lot of times, I know when I take over a company, I have great leaders, but they're not thinking. And I put in time to think, because we start hitting our heads against the wall doing the same thing. Have you kind of realized that the people that you do bring on, it's great to have experience, but it's more important to really be creative thinkers?
Yeah, so you touched on probably my most important leadership characteristic, and that's curiosity. If I don't have leaders that are curious, basically I want people that say to me, Chris, with what I don't want is people that say, look, here's the facts. This number, this number, this number. The bottom line will never be this. And I like to say to them, what if it had to be higher? What if it had to be? What would you do different? How would you format the business? And to me, that takes curiosity. You've got to think, okay, let me throw away everything I know that you have to have this many room attendants doing this much work or whatever, and start over. How would I reframe the business? And that's really where I got my start. Was people would send me, I was a troubleshooter like you, Anthony. People would send me to problem hotels and they'd say, our mortgage is $5 million a year and we're only making $4.5 million, Chris. Can you make us 5.5? And I would basically sit down and go, okay, let's start over. How would we make this business make 5.5 or 6.5 or 7? And that's what we would do. And it was hard sometimes. And to me, that's leadership, is having a vision and then enrolling the team in the vision to see what can happen. And I promise you, when you teach leaders that tool of curiosity and not looking, if you see the horizon, look past the horizon. Those are the big thinkers, and those are the people that change things.
Yeah, hard things should be inspiring for people. that really are exceptional. Like we like hard things. We like things that are really, really complicated that no one else has figured out. Because what's the fun in doing, just taking somebody else's business and kind of running it the same way? I don't find any fun in that. I find, like you said, curiosity. And, I work with some people that are so curious that's the only, I don't always get along with them and I don't really understand them, but they're so damn curious. And I'm just like, God, I never thought of that. That's so inspiring.
Well, I wanted to share with you guys. I just was at a conference a few weeks ago, and I heard from. I want to make sure I'm looking at my phone, but I took all kinds of notes. When I hear somebody talk, and I've got my phone taking a million notes, they're telling me stuff. So this was Admiral Hugh Howard III, retired, fourth generation naval officer, former chief of the Joint Strategic Command, whatever.
Make your bed.
Well, that's not that guy. It's a different guy.
Oh,
but
okay.
listen to what he said. This speaks to curiosity. He said, if you do anything in your business that someone else can do even reasonably well, you are at risk of going out of business. True. It's true. Like how is Remington going to differentiate from the other big five? Right? Because we all run hotels, and I can hire great talent, and that's one thing we're doing, right? Making sure we have the best in the business to run our hotels. But we got to be on the front edge. We need to be thinking about what is hotel management 3.0 or 4.0. And if we're not doing that, then we're not doing our jobs.
I worked in a hotel, and that's so true. And being a military guy myself, it's like I got my greatest nuggets from military leaders. And the gentleman that became the director of leadership at West Point was my commanding officer. And
wow,
he said to me in Honduras, he looked at me, and I asked him a question. It was more like, "Sir, what's the key to the castle?" It was kind of that kind of thing. And he said, "Do a little bit more, and you'll go a lot further." And that's been a mantra of mine because he literally said, because I remember being over looking at him like, I need to know the secret. And he was like, just do a little more, you go a lot further. And it's so true. And it's that little thing. Like if you go, like the people that I kind of choose to do business with, the one company, and you may agree or disagree with me, is Enterprise, that they never get it wrong. They never get it wrong. They pick me up, and like I don't know how they do it because they do the same thing.
They drive to your house.
No, but it's more than that. The car never smells like smoke. The car never has a stain. The people always offer me a bottle of water, and they always smile and ask what they can do more for me. Those are the only 4 things they do, and those are things that you don't need technology for. You don't need the brightest person from Harvard for. You just need somebody at the top saying, these are important, and you don't do these things, you have to work somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hope that's not my sound. I gave a talk at our conference, and I talked about being present. I didn't talk really about the business or anything else. And my tagline for the talk was, hospitality is not hard, it's heart. And what I meant by that is simple to you, Anthony. It's. I think we have gotten away from, like, with all the technology and then the pandemic and trying to squeeze margins and those things we have to do as business people. We've forgotten about what hospitality is, and it's this feeling here of me serving you, serving others, serving my team, and being enrolled in that at such a level that the outcome is great financials. We got all that wrong, right? We're, like you said, point and shoot. So that's a real challenge. And I think that's something that we need to work to bring back, because that's something you'll sense at a hotel. You walk in, you can feel that level of hospitality when it's coming straight from the heart.
100%. And
I just want to let everybody know. Yeah, the Duck Masters going on behind us. They just rolled out the red carpet. I don't know when the Ducks are going to appear, but it's very exciting around here at the Peabody right now.
If we're talking and the Ducks come out, it's like breaking news. Let's go to the Ducks.
Let's go to the Ducks.
Right, yeah, for sure. But, Anthony, what you were talking about is just do a little bit more. I kind of see it the same way as compound interest, right? It's just a little bit at the beginning, and it's something that builds over time. So it may not seem like much at the beginning, but in a few years, you're probably going to be many more steps ahead than you probably would have otherwise, right?
But the secret is, and Chris knows this better than anyone, it's being relentless. It's being like walking through a hotel and seeing a small thing, writing it down, and then speaking to the right leader, whether it be the general manager, whoever Chris thinks is the right leader, to say, "Hey, we talk about this. This is our mission statement. This is what we preach." And I didn't see that happening in this hotel. Well, Chris, it was only one person, and it was, Chris, I'm busy. Like you have to be relentless when you're running a big organization on those things, and it almost makes you look crazy. People are almost like, this guy's got a million things going on, and he's worried about that little piece of paper that was in the corner that no one saw. Like, he's going on for 25 minutes about this piece of paper.
Yeah.
And because the piece of paper is the bottom line to the owner, because that's how he is going to make his living, to pay his bills, because people notice everything. Some people do, some people don't, but that, like, it's almost, I get into almost a state of just almost, I'm insane, because if you let it go, it's the broken window syndrome. That one window breaks and they start breaking more.
Well, there's a very deep leadership lesson in that statement that you made there, and I share it with every new class. We have a Remington hospitality training that we call Foundations of Remington. We bring new GMs to Dallas, and the one thing I tell them when they take over a new hotel is two things. One, you probably made some mistakes. We all did running your last hotel, and you probably want to do better. And I said the most important thing you can do is, if you see a piece of paper or you see a cigarette butt on the ground, you bend over and pick it up. And then you address that later on. I said, because the minute that you walk by a piece of paper as the leader of that hotel, you have given tacit approval to your staff that that's okay.
100%.
And it's not, you don't have to be psycho about it. You just have to be relentless. That's a word that I love. I love relentless because it implies that you never stop being curious about how to be better. Relentless. I mean, like on market dynamics, right? How do you win the star report? Little incremental gains. Okay, guys, we won last week. We crushed it, but we didn't win Sunday. Now let's win Sunday. Now let's win Monday. And that's the way you make hotels last. There's a difference between
on that better 1% at a time, right? Don't go crazy. Just Anthony,
and
you were going to say something?
There's no greater thing when you challenge someone like that. When you look at a star report and say, "Let's Monday night. What are we doing?" Well, everybody knows on Sunday night in New York City, you're not getting people to stay on Sunday night if they don't want to stay on Sunday night. For Monday, you're not getting a corporate person to come in on Sunday night because you gave them a discount, because they want to be home with their family and go to their baseball games and stuff like that. So what do we do? And isn't it like the greatest thing when you challenge people that think like that challenge is too great? And then all of a sudden they come to you and go, "Hey, Chris, I figured this out and it seems to be working." Is there any greater feeling that when someone feels that they're kind of beaten, they go and they think and they're like, "Oh, okay, I figured that out on my own"?
Yeah, it's fantastic. There was this, when I was a very young manager, I was still learning the star report. And so I to help myself understand it and my team, I built this Excel calculator called the "We Took Their Money" calculator. And what it would add up, I know, I loved it. But listen, what it would add up is when we took more than our fair share on any given day, it would give me the dollars. And so we'd go into the staff meeting and be like, "We took $4,000 from our competitive hotels yesterday." And people just loved that, right? But what that taught me was, and taught my team was, when they looked at the reports that showed like Demand 360 and other things, Hotelligence, that's telling us, okay, we don't have any Sunday arrivals, but somebody in this market is getting 40 arrivals. Who is it? Let's find them. Let's win them over. And when you do that, it's a double positive, right? You're taking and getting. It's amazing. So
yeah, I remember when I was a young manager, I did that in reservations where I took $100 bill or a couple $100 bills, and when I was going through things, it was like, "Oh, you didn't say that," and I took the $100 away from them, and I was like, "You just lost $100," and it's like, because you didn't do this or whatever it was. And at the end, if they did more things right than wrong, I gave them the $100. And, those are the things that it's like when you have a teacher. I remember Miss Chase, she was my science teacher. Wonderful lady, like a mother figure. But all she did was write on the damn board, and all we had to do was copy it. She didn't make it interesting. So I really liked her because she was always very nice to me. But I didn't learn anything because, like, I'm not a learner like that. I can't learn like that. You've got to show me. I'm a slow learner. I need you to focus. right? I need that. And then once I got it, man, get out of my way because I'll be the best. I'll be the best at it. So it's that's what it is. If people want your focus, I was running through an airport with my daughter one day, and somebody stopped me, and I took the time, took the picture, and was very focused for maybe 45 seconds. And my daughter, when we get on the plane, she goes, "Dad, we were late. We were running late. Why would you do that?" I said, because they don't care I'm running late, and they're going to remember that moment. Say, "I'm sorry, sir, I'm running late for the airplane." They're going to remember that moment. So I would rather miss the airplane than that person have that moment in their brain saying that guy was too busy running to an airplane to say hello to me. And that's the kind of focus you need with your employees. If Sloan's waiting for you for a very important meeting, but that housekeeper needs to talk to you, who's more important? It's the housekeeper.
Yep.
And if you don't get that, and that's what's great about working with, talking to you and Sloan, like if I work with you guys, I would never feel unsafe in saying, this is what I need to do. And that is the most important thing. There's a brand out there right now. I'm getting more calls from my friends saying, I got to get out of here. I won't tell you which brand, but they feel like they can't talk to anybody.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge risk. But it takes very confident leaders to be okay with that, right? Make the right hire, give them the right tools, and then let them be entrepreneurial. I always talk about freedom in a framework, right? The framework is our kind of our guiding principles as an organization. As long as you're in that framework, be as entrepreneurial as you want. Run your business, drive change, but also never bump into these walls, because these are the things that make us Remington Hospitality. These are our core beliefs and our core operational expectations. But inside of that, whatever you want. There's way more open space in an open cube than there is walls, right? So be entrepreneurial, lead your business, and I have no ego about it. I hope somebody takes my job, right? That just means I'll get a chance to do something else. So
yeah, but it's also important if you do bump into those walls and you realize it, either call yourself out or when you get called out, just take it. Like whatever it is, whatever consequence it is, up including termination, just own it.
Yeah.
Don't say I didn't know. One of the things I would imagine that gets you going is when they know and they say, well, I didn't realize or I didn't know.
Yeah, I call that a filter, right? We have certain filters we pass things through, integrity being one of them, right? So saying I don't know when it's a stated policy or whatever, that's not of integrity. You need to know if you're in leadership what we believe.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Glenn. I mean,
no, I just think it's really important, and I'm a big believer. The kind of the same cadence and tone I'm talking to you now is the same way I have conversations with people that I might have to be correcting behavior. Right? There's no reason to get fired. It's just fact. It's like, okay, what happened? Didn't that work? And how do we go forward from here? And what'd you learn? Right? I'll tell you, there's nothing more impressive to me though than a leader that comes in and goes, I made a mistake. Here's the decision I made. Here's where I went wrong. Here's where I plan to change it going forward. And here's how I've corrected what I could about that issue.
Yeah. And, I get quieter. Like I'm really enthusiastic when things are going well. When things are going bad, when I talk to people, it's almost like a monotone.
That's
I'm
scary.
very, very quiet. And that's scary. I'm just very thoughtful because I don't want to
scare me.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to overreact. I want to understand. Hey man, this is what happened. What were you thinking? How can I help you? And it's almost like people don't recognize me because I'm not enthusiastic. I'm just like very kind of matter of fact, because early in my career, first 5, 6, 7 years, I was bringing my emotions into it. And now it's like, I like that. I like the fact that I caught myself and I'm very, very quiet. We were talking about, owning up to something and something completely different. We were in a championship softball game last night, over 50. And I had a procedure yesterday. I wasn't feeling great. And I made an error. And I took myself out of the game without telling the coach. I just changed it. I had somebody else play second. And at the end of the game, he didn't even realize. I said, hey, man, I don't want you to think I gave up on you, but I just took myself out of the game on second base. And he's like, I didn't even realize. I was like, because there was no errors. That's why I didn't realize. And like at the first time in my life I ever did that. And it's a maturity that's like, this is a championship game. I'm not in the game. I've got to take myself out of the game. And sometimes when you're a leader or you're a manager, you've got to take yourself out of the game and say, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. and I gotta ask Chris, hey Chris, I'm confused. I made a mistake, and I would love to give you a solution, but I'm really a little lost. Can we kind of work on this together? Like, you get so much more credibility for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go back to the beginning conversation about scale, that's probably been personally, I used to like to know every detail about every hotel. It's just not possible now. And so that's a little disconcerting for me if I think about it, right? I used to be able to speak intelligently about every hotel in the portfolio. I'd read every single star report every week, which it's just not possible. 135. I can look at them all, but am I going to retain it all? I'll do my best. So what you've got to do is then you got to figure out the data points that matter and the leaders that can affect change and give them the key strategies that they've got to attack, because that's all you can do.
Right, and listen, we should be wrapping up, but in that vein, you've been adding more divisions and putting more people in decision-making positions at this point. So it shows that you're letting go a little bit and trusting those people who could then relay that critical information to you to help make decisions.
Yeah, you can't grow without it, Glenn. I mean, you've got to be able to. If you're going to scale a business, you've got to put people in the right jobs and let them do what they're good at, right? And then support them where they need support. So,
and when you're running at that level, it's the difference between single A and major leagues, right? Single A, you're allowed to make mistakes and kind of learn. Double A, triple A, like, oh, that guy's got potential. When you're in the major leagues, it's like expectations. It's like, I know you made an error, but like, you're getting paid to not make those errors, and you can make some. Baseball players. If you're getting 3 out of 10 hits, you're making $50 million a year. But that you better be getting those hits, and those hits better be really, really important. And so it's just expectations. I always say when you're on my set, we're in the big leagues. They push a button, 5 million people see our show. You can't you can't play.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy that someone can make 3 hits out of 10 and make all that kind of money. And I'm only hitting 3 less out of 10, and I'm making nothing. So I don't get that. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, you were saying?
No, I was just going to say it is exhilarating for somebody like me that likes a challenge, that likes complexity. I think I've told you guys in the past, my favorite song is this one from the 80s by this band called Garbage. I'm only happy when it rains. And that's like, I just like it when it's complex. If I get itchy. I'm like Ricky Bobby's dad. I get itchy when things are too good, right? I think it's got to be complex and messy, and then I'm more myself. So that's where I thrive. So
I get depressed when things are going like that. I just like, you just can't, like, you need energy. Like, I realized, I thought early on in my career that being quiet was my energy, but no, being around people is where I get my energy.
Yeah. Oh, you are so right, Anthony. When I'm home, like, I fall asleep at like 9:30 at night because there's no energy around. There's nothing to keep me stimulated. But when I'm out on the road, I can stay up to all hours and be engaged and all of that. But at home, I feel a little disconnected because I don't get that positivity from people. Chris, we got to get going. Yeah?
I'm sorry. Before we leave, Glenn, I'm sorry, but I just love talking to Chris.
I know.
One of the things that is important is your time, having your time with leaders. How do you schedule in like really clear time for people that are really the people making big decisions for you? Like, I would imagine that's very difficult. How do you do that?
I would like to tell you I'm better at it. Our schedules kind of, and I'm still working at it, right? Our schedules can take over our lives, right? Because this flight lands late or this lands late. We work really hard to have one-on-ones weekly with key leaders, but I can tell you that they get moved as much as they get held. So what I've started doing now is blocking hard time in the office, hard time. And it's no flights, no travel, no nothing. And that's the days that I do the one-on-ones. That's the only way I can do it is instead of making it a meeting on the calendar, it's like a hard stop. You're not leaving the office. You're not taking any phone calls. You're not traveling and spending that time. And all we do, we just go, we basically say what's working and what's not working. That's the 2 questions. What's working? What's not working? Because that opens up, you wouldn't believe how long those conversations can go from just those 2 things on growth, because you're really wanting them to lead, right? If they're the EVP or the SVP of whatever, sales, commercial, digital, whatever, they know their job. It's how do you help them lead effectively to win with their their division or their set of hotels. Like it's more about leading their people than it is about the technicalities of the job. You wouldn't have the job if you didn't know technicalities. So,
And how much the competitor in you wants to be the best, the number one? Like, how much does that, like, because, okay, here's Chris Green, very nice, very pleasant, very smart, very good. But how much are you, like, is that little kid that wants to win really bad? Like, how do you focus that or manage that?
it's actually changed as I've gotten older, Anthony. And I will tell you this, integrity is a big word for me. It's like, do what you say what you do. And so if we're not winning or what we said was going to be winning, let's say we write a pro forma for X hotel in X market somewhere, and it may not be the number one hotel. It might have a tough location or a difficult brand selection, whatever. But if we said it's going to be 3 out of 5 and we're only making 4 out of 5, I take that as a personal affront. Like I'm not honoring my word, and it actually keeps me up at night. And it could be some hotel in, Corpus Christi, Texas, or wherever, and it's just something that Chris Green said, and that's what I tell the team. I can't make everything when I'm doing a development pitch. I know what I believe we're capable of, and I've seen us do it, but the team has to make it true. And boy, you want to talk about disconcerting, right? It's almost like the manager of a baseball team. They don't ever hit a ball, but if the team doesn't win, the manager looks. I mean, that's on them, right? So,
that's why anytime I ask people, "Oh, Chris Green," not one person doesn't like beam and say, "Oh my God, I love that guy,"
that's so nice.
You believe that your integrity is important.
Yeah,
That's a perfect.
Great being with you guys.
Yeah, Chris. Any final thoughts before you go?
No, I'm see everybody at the lodging conference out in Phoenix, one of my favorite times of year because we can mix some fun and some business. And I love to see you out there. If you're coming out, hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever. So
I'm definitely going out there, Chris. I'm very looking forward to it. I'm going to be hosting one of the general sessions panels, but I'm most intrigued, and this is right up my alley. They're doing a lazy river race. So, if I could hang out in the lazy river and win something, then I think that's going to be an amazing thing for me. Chris, great seeing you, buddy. Take care.
Thanks for having me, guys. Bye, Anthony.
It's a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, well, it looks like the Duckmaster thing is about to happen. I'm here at the Southern Lodging Summit. I'm going to be hosting a luncheon here at the Rendezvous Barbecue. On Thursday, I'll be at LendingCon hosting a panel with Congressman and our friend Chip Rogers. And what about you?
Oh, well, congratulations. Is there any way we can see it?
I don't know. I'll try to figure that out. But all right, this noise is too much.
No, I mean the duck. Can we see the ducks? That's what I meant. Can we see the?
I think he's going to do a little duck speech. I don't think the ducks are ready to make their appearance yet. I heard something. They're going quackers upstairs making these crazy demands or something like that. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
But
I'll get a video.
Anyway, talking to Chris.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for being here. Sorry, I'm having a